Yeezys have been restocking on Adidas, and I ask you, does it matter? You're going to get my unfiltered opinion this time on a bonus episode of Fire Footwear. Welcome to Fire Footwear, everybody. As always, this is your host, Matt Frates, and this is kind of a bonus episode. Now, we have been on this run of taking a deep dive through sneaker history, and I don't want to derail that, but I know that in the sneaker world, especially in the world of social media and just kind of how everything works, I know that my opinion as a podcaster and content creator about the sneakers that are out there is important to a lot of you, and I think that it's important that while I like to do the history stuff, and while I think it's artistic and creative, and I think that it does serve a purpose, I think that there is also a purpose in giving my opinion about certain things. And so consider this a bonus episode of content. And something that I've noticed that's been going on is that Yeezys are kind of back. And what do I mean by Yeezys are back? Because obviously Kanye and Adidas have formally parted ways. They are divorced. Whatever facsimile of a word that you'd like to use to sort of describe what the state of that relationship is, they will no longer be working together. They will no longer be producing new Yeezys, any silhouettes, old silhouettes, you name it. That partnership is over. And while Kanye made billions probably, and Adidas made billions probably, it's not what it was, and it will never be what it was. But they have made headlines this month as they have had what is now, I think, the fourth or fifth day, a string of what they're calling Yeezy days. And these Yeezy days, this is something that they used to do way back in the day, and it was once a year. And I always thought, and maybe you disagree, but I always thought that it was sort of an opportunity for Adidas to provide false hope to people in the sneaker community. A lot of people like me, a lot of people like probably everybody who listens to this pod, who knows that they don't really have a chance. And the reason I say that is because I feel like they had ridiculously low stock, and the hype was really, really high because I think people thought that they had a chance to get a silhouette or a colorway or whatever that they were never going to be able to get. And Yeezy Day being brought back, we all know that there is a lot of stock. And I'm talking about Yeezy stock that did not go sold after the relationship fractured between the two parties. And so Adidas is obviously trying to put all of this out there. Now, they said that they were going to have to take a huge dip. They think this was sometime last year. And now fast forward to today, and of course they are putting it out there. And they're putting it out there, and it seems like there's a pretty decent selection. I'm not going to sit here and complain about having the opportunity to get Yeezys at retail, but that's where my fundamental problem comes in, is the retail price. Now, not too long ago, Yeezys, in my opinion, were on the higher end in terms of the sneaker market, because I think that Kanye envisioned Yeezy, and I think every sneaker that he's really created, to sort of be towing the line between really high-end fashion and the sneaker community. Because I think if you look at the distribution of the socioeconomic backgrounds of people in sneaker culture, I don't think everybody can afford high-end fashion. I know that I probably could, but I also know that I don't want to, because it would be financially irresponsible if I was buying high-end luxury. Not to mention it'd be a total waste of time, because it would be a total waste on my body. But I think Kanye saw his brand and his vision sort of towing that line. I think Kanye thought that his vision would be sort of high-end fashion or high-end-esque fashion for the every person, for everybody who is in sneaker culture. And the prices fit that, I think. When you talk about a Yeezy 350, I think they were what, $220, $230. You talk about a Yeezy 700 were $280. The 700 V2s were $300. These are pretty high prices to be asking people to pay. And if you think about 2015, 16, 17, all the way up until the pandemic, I think these prices were higher and they seemed a little bit more exorbitant. Now, in my opinion, when you look at Yeezys, I see Yeezys as sort of, I don't think of them as a fashion statement. I really see them as more practical, as more function over fashion. Obviously, when we're buying shoes, we have to like them aesthetically. We have to think that they're going to go with some type of an outfit. And certainly not every single Yeezy is meant for just pure utility. But I always saw the line that way. And so those prices always made me balk, because I knew that that was such a high price. And when I thought about what I could use that money for, it was hard for me to pull the trigger. And so with this restock, I think it's reasonable to think that Adidas would give us a discount, no? And the reason I say that is because one of the things that Adidas was able to do was traffic in the popularity of Kanye West as a personality. And yes, obviously his designs had to be fire, the colorways had to be fire. But in order for that to work, it had to have Kanye's stamp on it. And I think we all know that that's true, because let's take all the shoes that have come out as a part of the Yeezy line. If they just were released by Adidas, would people be flocking to them? Adidas has had an issue in trying to even sell shoes by Beyonce, who's somebody that is globally renowned. And I think Kanye West, his personality, the music that he created, and I think his polarizing nature is something that really sold. And Adidas was trafficking in that. And so while Adidas and Kanye were in a partnership, I think it's reasonable to charge higher prices. But there has been a lot of public chatter about the fact that Adidas is going to lose a lot of money if they don't release these Yeezys. And so when I think of that, and I think of where Adidas is, I'm thinking to myself, they have an opportunity to really provide a lot of goodwill to the sneaker community. Let's put a lot of these out there, let's make them accessible, and let's give them a discount. Let's cut sneaker culture a break, because this is not Adidas and Kanye anymore. This is just shoes that look like Yeezys that were once Yeezys that are not really affiliated with this man anymore, to the point that he has gone out of his way to kind of distance himself from Yeezy Day, distance himself from Adidas. He wants nothing to do with his past in that regard. And so when I see these out there at retail price, former retail price, I get it from a business perspective. But I'm also somewhat offended as a sneaker buyer, because I feel like I have put in the time, I have given myself to sneaker culture, and honestly, through Yeezy, a lot of people like myself have given themselves to the brand Adidas when they might not have before. And I wonder, if you're not buying Yeezys today, are you still buying Adidas? Now, there's always going to be people who roll with a certain brand no matter what, and no shade at you at all. But I think that a lot of people are now going to buy these up. I mean, they're selling out, so people are going to buy them. And I believe that many of the people who are buying them are probably thinking about the resale value of them. Because they are going to be exclusive now, and because they're not going to make a ton of them anymore, these are obviously going to be a rare find. And so having them, flipping them, or at least holding on to them until they have that kind of flip value, I understand why people are doing that. But I also don't think that it's something that Adidas should have done. I think that people should have had a little bit better access financially to them. And I think that I really feel like that would have created a lot of goodwill in the sneaker community. They did not do that. They did provide a 50% discount on certain ones. There were videos going around that they were at the outlets in certain places, not necessarily in the United States, but in other countries. And while that is all well and good, we all know that all of the colorways that they had out there, and even the models, were not the highly sought after models. Nothing against the 380 or anybody who likes it, but there is no way that that is going to get me to go buy it. And I'm talking about a 50% discount. And so I think Adidas dropped the ball on this a little bit. And maybe you disagree. I would love to hear what your thoughts are. Did you buy them? Did you find it to be the kind of price that you would pay no matter what? Do you love Yeezys that much that it doesn't matter that he's not part of Adidas? And maybe that is true. But if you want to let me know, Instagram at Fire Footwear Pod is the handle, or you can search Fire Footwear, a sneaker podcast on YouTube, and comment on one of my videos. I appreciate everybody tuning in. I'd love to know what your thoughts are. I just know that this whole thing sort of disappointed me. And while we are going to continue down this road of sneaker history, I wanted to give you a little bit of a raw, insightful look into my thoughts on Yeezy Day. Appreciate everybody's time. I'll talk to you next week. This is Fire Footwear. The opinions and viewpoints expressed on Fire Footwear are those of Matt Frates and his guests, and not necessarily those of the Matty Ice Media Network. Fire Footwear is exclusively owned by Matt Frates and is brought to you by the Matty Ice Media Network.